Gallagher, earlier we were speaking about that rather tricky transition that awaits the administration of Joe Biden. Let's talk about the cabinet looking further ahead. He has previously said, and we've heard this from his campaign time and time again, that he wants a cabinet, an administration certainly, that represents all of America. So that'll be blue, red, women, different races, you name it.
Absolutely. He's going to try to reach out. He's going to try to find people who embody perhaps some parts of the Democratic Party that he certainly is not a part of. For instance, the more progressive part of the party, finding folks, though, who will be up for the task on some of the key positions. You know, we mentioned the Secretary of State, other ones as well at the Pentagon, and working on the economy, working on other key positions. We'll see, for instance, as well what he does with Kamala Harris. Remember that Donald Trump had named his Vice President Mike Pence to head this COVID-19 task force. Joe Biden promised to basically do the same thing, have a COVID-19 task force at the White House. Will he name Kamala Harris to be at the helm of that, or will he go look for someone else, perhaps a moderate Republican, to do so? Obviously, it's going to be a very complex task, much easier said than done, but it will certainly be very important symbolically to be able to sort of, catch some of these key figures, attract, seduce them, and convince them of joining the team. These sort of, this poster will be a very important one to put up in the early days of the administration, basically with this idea that he has been campaigning on, that of reuniting the country.
Now, Gallagher, you've just been mentioning the partisan wrangling that we are absolutely expecting to see unravel in the aftermath of certainly today. Now, the big question is, many experts have said that if anyone's going to bring the two sides of the spectrum together, it is someone like Joe Biden, a man who has previously been known for making those compromises, even to his own detriment. Certainly famously, he was seen to be at the helm of bringing an unprecedented U.S. government shutdown to an end.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at what he has just done. He was able to flip back these states that Hillary Clinton lost in 2016. These are people who went for Donald Trump, who did not go for the Democratic ticket. These are people whom the Democratic Party was convinced that they pretty much owned them in Wisconsin, farmland, Pennsylvania, Michigan, the auto industry, the workers of the steel industry that has been disappearing, folks who had deserted the Democratic Party, who went with the Trump ticket, and who now have gone back into the sort of Biden camp. Unclear in terms of the demographic breakdown. It's way too early in order to sort of, zoom in and basically determine with great precision that indeed it is those very, white, non-college educated males or folks who flipped again. But certainly this demonstrates that the Joe Biden persona, the sort of everyday Joe, through his demeanor, his mannerism that he likes to embody, that worked this time around. But with certain limitations. Remember that more than 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. That's more Americans than those who voted for him in 2016. Remember that he made great gains, and this is one of the big stunners in this election within minority communities, in the so-called Latino community, African Americans, but women also. So this just goes to show, these are little indications that, again, we've been saying this all evening, but it really is harshly, very vividly true that the task, the challenge lying ahead is huge, even for someone like Joe Biden, whom, as you mentioned, is a master when it comes to making these sorts of compromises, difficult, painful compromises on a political note, but also on a personal note for him as well. You mentioned that shutdown. Very important episode indeed.
Gallagher, we've been very positive up until this point in terms of what drew the American voter at such a polarized time in America to Joe Biden. But of course, many pundits, certainly Republicans, the Trump campaign attacking other elements that have been problematic for some, one of them being his age. The other one, one could say, plethora of gaffes that he has been making throughout some of his addresses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Donald Trump quite astutely campaigned on this. Very many videos, went online, on air, pointing to Joe Biden's gaffes, indeed, his age, at times the fact that he did look very tired, physically tired, intellectually tired at times, huge gaffes, even though he was reading off of prompters, scripts. So that is indeed somewhat worrying. But he has a 56-year-old VP by his side. And he certainly was able to make it this far, and swimmingly so. But indeed, you're saying that we've been giving this a positive spin, and we need to be very careful, wary of the fact that Donald Trump is not the source of what we've been seeing over the past 4 years. He's a symptom of some very real problems in America. Let's just name one of them that really shocked very many Americans, but large parts of the world: white supremacy, xenophobia, cozying up to parts of the population who seemed to be part of a distant past and all of a sudden reemerged, walking through the streets of Charlottesville in Virginia, Washington, D.C. as well, calling themselves the alt-right or Proud Boys, and being referred to in one of the two debates that Donald Trump had against or with Joe Biden, rather. That will have to be addressed. That's not going to go away overnight simply because Joe Biden is president-elect. It is there, and America will have to confront some of these very real demons and find a way to basically put an end to that, cope with that. I think that one of the big shockers when we saw the advent of the Trump era was that Barack Obama was the very first African-American president. And I believe that part of his agenda was to transition America into a post-racial era. And what we in fact saw with Donald Trump being elected president is that the country was forced into a sort of post-factual era. The country was governed with emotions, not numbers, not science, not facts, just sheer emotion, saying things that were blatantly false, but saying them and repeating them with so much conviction and so many different times that people had to struggle to demonstrate that this was completely absurd and this was just simply not true. That thinking, that attitude has left some wounds that are still very much open and again will not be cured magically overnight simply because there's a new person coming into the White House.
Absolutely. Gallagher Fenwick, these are demons that will have to be tackled in America, not just over the coming months, but potentially years. If you're